What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Leveled Up Life podcast. Branamier Courtney is always here with my main man.
Let's go.
Paul McClain in the studio today, helping you level up your life in all the areas that matter most: your faith, your family, your fitness, your finance, and your franchise. We got Peyton McClain on the ones and twos producing. What's up, Peyton?
You want to say anything?
Thanks for hanging out with us, Peyton. We're trying to help people like you, young people on the come up, level up their life.
I gotta say something about that real quick, dude.
Go for it.
So interesting. I was talking to Pastor Jeff Osborne. He gave me a call.
Yeah.
And he's blowing up, dude. He's speaking on stage a bunch of places. I mean, he's just anointed and gifted to deliver just a message that empowers you, equips you, and takes you to the next level. In fact, we had him on a podcast, probably 6 weeks ago?
Yeah,
5 weeks ago. So anyways, go back and watch that. But he was talking about something that, and we'll tie this in today. We're actually going to break down and talk about voices lead to choices. And so before we even get into it, just trust me. After all this time, we should have built some trust. Like, subscribe, and share this with somebody, and comment as well. But he broke it down. He's like, he said he was at a conference speaking on stage, got off. Jabin Chavez went up, and he started talking about the Jacob generation.
Yeah.
And basically how Jacob was wrestling for his identity, right, with God, and he touched him, and he kind of goes through the whole story. And he's like, man, I just feel like right now in today's world, like this 15 to 25-year-old age group, a lot more entrepreneurial, right? They want to go out there, create, build. They don't want to just kind of work a job and clock in and clock out. But it's like at the same time, it's a generation that if they need somebody to kind of say, hey, step here, don't step here. These are the distractions. These are the things that are going to mess you up. These are the landmines. This is how you goal set. This is how you schedule. This is how you structure. This is how you should think about yourself. This is how you should think about others. And just basically like giving them some feedback. And I was like, dude, that's pretty good.
100%. Well, I think this generation, for what I can see, it's one of the most open generations there is. Like, and that could be a good or a bad thing, right? But they're open to like learning. They're not just going to stay stuck in tradition or what was or how things have been. Like they're going, no, I want something new. I want something different. So if you're speaking the truth to them, like they're willing to listen and willing to lean in and be guided. So shout out Peyton.
Yeah, hey, and even her friends, they're plugging in. Some of them are doing leveled up investments with them, and then you're calling leads and stuff. And so they gotta, they wanna not just. This is the thing I always say. Like at the end of the year, most people are like, well, once January 1st comes, I'm gonna lose the weight. I'm gonna eat better. I'm gonna do this. All these good intentions start to get kind of laid out in the year, and by the time January 1st comes, dude, you gotta lose 7 pounds because you went hard thinking like, oh my God, I'm not gonna be able to eat this stuff. And so it's the same thing I think with anybody on here. This is for you. If you're in high school, this is for everybody. This is applicable. But if you're getting ready to end and become an adult, why not step into that with a head start? Because you've already started to develop yourself, started to look at different things, plug into with people, get some game plans put in place. Start thinking about it now. And you're going to end going into it with such a high confidence. You're going to get so much more from it. Then you build momentum. And all of a sudden, you cover 4 times the amount of, traction and territory in your first 4 years of being an adult than you would have because you started. Or the kid that's like, man, now I'm an adult. What do now? Mm-hmm. And now you kind of like lack the confidence and you don't take the steps you need to take because of the lack of confidence. So.
Well, that's why it's so important to have people that can speak into your life, because the truth is we all have voices in our head, right? Yep. You got these two competing voices. You can call them dogs, right? And whatever dog you feed the most, that's which one's going to win. And so you got the good and evil, right? The angel and devil sitting on your shoulder, and they're competing. They're trying to speak a truth or a lie. And whatever one you're leaning into and listening to the most, you're going to end up following. And so that's why it's so important, not just for young people, but dude, everyone. Yeah. That could have, podcasts and sermons and mentors and people that you can get on the phone with and say, hey, what do you think about this situation? What would you do if you were me? How can I navigate this? And you could feed the good thing. You could feed the truth way more, and it helps you avoid those landmines. 'Cause I don't know about you, but dude, I got, like you said it the other day when you preached at church. You said, dude, I have worship music on in my house all the time, not because I'm super spiritual or real holy, but because I'm messed up.
Right.
So like I need to be reminded. And I thought that was good because it's so relatable. Like, we're not trying to, speak to something that we're not walking through ourselves, right? Like, 2 days ago, I was in a meeting and I was like, yeah, we'll definitely do that next year. And I said it and I thought, why? Like, why next year? Why not? Why can't we do this next week? Yeah. Like, let's get on this right now. And it was just that voice that's been spoken to me over time. It's like, hey, don't delay, don't wait. Like, if it's in your heart, like, if you could execute on it now, it's the whole diet thing. On Diet Monday. But that's the whole thing when it comes to like having the right voices speaking into you will lead to the right choices, will lead to the right action, will lead to the right outcomes. And so hopefully this podcast has been helping you. So let's talk about that today.
Yeah.
Voices lead to choices.
Well, I got a question for you.
Sure.
So,
how long do I have to answer?
As long as you want, man. I'm ready to learn and
let's go
and grow. And I mean it too. Every single week, I feel like I do grab a ton of stuff from you, man, and it makes a difference. But I think that those voices are always there, right? You got the voice that is trying to kind of pull you off the track, trying to kind of take you to those lower levels. Maybe it's a pass, right? It's trying to bring you back into something that you left, but you keep staring at it, so the emotions are still derived from what took place that you've already been delivered from, you've already left, right? Whether that was a mistake, an issue, an addiction, whatever, right? We all screw things up. You know what I mean? Like we did a podcast on how many things we've screwed up, dude. We can do that one, episode 597, we'd still be going. But that's just the way it is. But I think the voice from the past will kind of creep in, right? I think that's a big issue, like screaming at you as far as, hey, I want to go here. You're trying to look forward to a future full of hope and full of promise. But if you've got the past voice saying, yeah, but you're not that good.
Right.
Yeah, but remember when you messed this up and all that kind of stuff. Now, I know that's a pretty common voice that the enemy will kind of slide in.
Yeah.
I think another voice is the voice of comparison, right?
That's good.
Where it's like, hey, look at that person. Everything's going right. I was talking about on Sunday, like, man, like, you start looking at Instagram and you think, like, this guy, and you call him Billy, Billy's got nothing wrong with him, man. His wife loves him. Whatever he asks, she respects and says yes. The kids obey. Billy eats great, never has a snack because he's ultra disciplined. Billy's got a six-pack. Billy's rich. Billy's perfect. And it's like the reality is you don't know, and you're never going to know because Billy's never going to get on Instagram and be like, look how dysfunctional my life is, right? Look at me arguing with my spouse. Look at me just dealing with all the things that you, me, and Bran deal with because we're human beings, right? And so I think that voice will keep you from thinking that what you're doing is important, what you're doing matters. And I think it'll trip you up and keep you from going to run the race that you're called to run at the pace you're called to run it at. Because how can I run if I'm staring here?
Yep.
It's like you think about the Olympics, like the guy usually gets smoked when he's like, all right, I got to lead. And so he looks over, where's Billy? Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden, because you looked over, bro, like you took your eyes off where you needed to go, and that affected your body, your momentum, your psyche, everything. And now you look up and you lost the race that you were called to run because you're focused on how the other guys raced with being ran. And so I think that's important too. But I think consumption, and I want you to talk about this, how important is consumption as far as being able to drown out the voices that will cause us to fall short, right? And I call them the lies because the truth is everything God calls us, right? What he says about us, Mm-hmm. And maybe at the end, you can remind everybody about like what does God say about you? Because if it doesn't line up with those words, well, then it doesn't matter. Right. And I think for me, dude, that's the only sense of security and confidence I get is I have all kinds of crazy thoughts and stuff in my mind. And sometimes I'll rationalize them trying to think that they're accurate. But my issue is what if I'm wrong? Or what if I'm right?
Right.
Well, now I'm confused, and confused people don't want to do anything. So I can't move with confidence in a state of confusion. But then if I go to the word, boom, instantly I'm like, well, my thought was inaccurate. My feeling was not justified because this is what it said. So I'd love to have you finish here, but kind of talk about consumption and how that, you talked about it being, negative, positive, but the power of consumption and like how frequent does it need to be?
Yeah.
How important is it? How consistent are you with it? Have you always been consistent with it? Were you consistent with it right out of high school? Were you consistent? I mean, like, what does that look like as far as?
I think you said something that was so key, and that's confused people do nothing, right? And so the reason that you want to have the truth spoken into you or be consistent hearing the right things is so you can have confidence to step into what you're trying to accomplish, right? Whether that's your ministry, your business, leading your family, like you're trying to be confident and have clarity so you can move forward and have an action item checked off, right? You're not just trying to get a bunch of knowledge just to do nothing with it. And so what you consume matters, right? Good or bad. So I think I was thinking about my boy started playing baseball, and Blaze, my 9-year-old, I always play him up. He always plays with the older brother. So he's playing with bigger kids, and he was a starting pitcher this last Saturday, and he was the starting batter, right? He's never played baseball. He's freaking out. He's super nervous. And he went up there, and he struck out his first at bat. And dude, he usually crushes, like in practice, he's usually like, I know Blaze's going to get on, I'm going to have him steal right away. The whole game plan, he strikes out.
Hey, did you post that?
Of course not. You know, why would I
what
post that?
Dude, he smoked it.
Yeah. No, that was brave. That was
Okay,
brave to smoke it. But dude, I looked in the dugout and he was like, his eyes were so teary. Like he was balling up, getting ready to like cry. And I said, what's wrong with you? He was like, leave me alone, Dad. And I'm like, dude, what's wrong with you? He's like, leave me alone. And I said, son, baseball is the only sport where you can fail 70% of the time and still make the Hall of Fame. He was like, what? I was like, you can strike out 7 out of 10 times and still like make it pro.
Yeah.
And dude, I just saw him like processing, like thinking about that. And you should have seen him his next at bat, the next time he went out there and pitch and go, and it's okay to fail. It's okay to mess up. Like I could strike out 7 times, I only got hit 3 out of 10 and I'll still make the All-Star team. It's like, dude, don't worry about the mess ups. Just let that one go and move on to the next one, because the longer you hold on to the last thing, good or bad, like it's going to prevent you from stepping into the next thing, right? And so I just said, don't worry about that. Like just continue to stack little wins. And I think where people lose their confidence or their ability to move forward is when they hold on to things that they shouldn't be, and they hold on to things that they're holding on to things that they shouldn't be, and then they don't hold on to things that they should hold on to, right? And so it's like what you preached on Sundays, like, man, God's been so faithful in my past. He's done so many things. He's come through so many times. It's like, Blaze, dude, you've been a stud your whole life, but you forgot all about your athleticism. You forgot all about the confidence you always walk with, because you focus on the one strikeout. And I think we do the same thing. Yeah. And then what happens is, like, we get consumed by the failure, and then we're not having enough intake of the good things. And so to answer your question, like, you need people in your life that can speak the truth into you and remind you of the callings that's on your life. Like, the reality is, you could have like the daily affirmations, and you could be in your word, and you could be listening to the right thing, and you should be doing all that, right? We all know that. That's nothing new under the sun.
Sure.
But the truth is, you need and this has been, I guess, to make it personal for me, what's helped me so much, because I can even get in my own head, dude. I study for a living, right? And I'll still question things, like, as I'm living out my faith, is I got to have people around me that could remind me of the purpose and calling and plan that's on my life. Because if not, you can have all the knowledge, but if you're not if you don't have the group of people around you that can pull you back up when you're sinking, it's like, it's hard. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, dude, it's super hard. So that's why I'm appreciative. Like, even like you and we got together with a bunch of guys a couple of weeks ago, say, hey, I need your guys' help. Like, I need you guys to look out for me, you know? And I think that takes being self-aware, right? Mm-hmm. Going, dude, I'm weak in this area. Like, I need some accountability here. I need some help in this situation. But most people, they just never take an audit of where they are, and they just continue to just, you know, live the same life of frustration. And they're going, I'm doing all the right things. I'm trying, I'm reading, I'm doing this, but it's like, you don't have really any accountability to move forward. So I don't know if I answered your question or not, but
so good, bro. That was fire.
What about you? I mean, I'll piggyback the same question to you. What do you think is?
Well, I mean, dude, for one, that was perfect. Everything you said, I'm thinking about myself and the things that I kind of battle with, and I love what Craig Rochelle says. He has that statement that says, you can't defeat what you can't defy.
Yep.
And I think that's the reality. Is the good news is this: the enemy is not coming out with any kind of new tactics or strategy. He does the same thing over and over and over. He tries to get you discouraged. He tries to divide you from the word, which is good consumption, the truth that will set you free. He tries to distract you, right, with different shiny objects, trophies, different things of the world that ain't going to bring you any fulfillment, so you stop doing the things that actually bring true fulfillment. I think he tries to distort the truth, which is what you're talking about with Blaze. Like, the truth was, he is an athletic beast. Like, the dude's a stud. He always has been. But then you start focusing on, well, I'm a stud, but I just struck out.
Right.
And then you start getting that feeling of, like, how does it feel to strike out? How does it feel to lose? How does it feel to
you see all those people watching you?
Yeah. And then all of a sudden now what you're doing is your mind's going to work trying to find more evidence to support that feeling that you developed from that one thought. And so now you're in this spiral, this doom loop, and then I think what happens is, like, you know, you said it great, like, the self-awareness. Like, it doesn't happen where all of a sudden one day you're all these different characteristics or qualities, right, in your personality, or whatever level you are with confidence, whatever level you are with positivity, whatever level that is, right, because there's different levels that you're going to go through and experience. It's not just like one day you're like here, and then typically one day you're like negative, like to zero. but I think it happened just slowly, dude. And like, it's like if I took a flight from here to like New York, if I'm 1 degree off, it's not going to make any difference. I'm still going to cross over the state of Nevada and all these different states, but as I get further and further, before I know it, I'm not in New York, I'm in Florida.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how the heck did I get here? Like, how did I get here? It didn't feel like I was going the wrong direction. It didn't feel like I was off track. It was because you're only 1 degree off. It didn't feel like that each day by day by day, but now you get 6 months behind and you look and you're like, dang, dude, how the heck did I get here? Why am I thinking like this? Why is my relationship like this? Why is my body like this? Why is my spiritual, my faith like this? Like, how did this happen? And so I think that's a big part, is like being so aware. And what I would say, Brandon, is like, I think that when you consume a lot of like good stuff, and it comes down to the disciplines, right? It's not like a feeling, it becomes a strategy. So now I'm more focused on, do I feel like I'm getting better here? Do I feel like I'm getting a result or progressing here? It's like, no, dude, each day I got to do these things. I'm going to read the word, I'm going to pray, I'm going to do affirmations, I'm going to write down what I'm grateful for. And all that does is it reminds you of the truth. And so I think what it does is it helps you identify when something doesn't match that picture. And that picture is so clearly in your mind that when something does show up, it shoots off an immediate red flag. And so you're able to be like, this doesn't make sense. You're more aware of a red flag. You're more aware of what it looks like because you've done your due diligence, you've done your disciplines. And then I think to me, it's like a pre-decision. Because, dude, we're all humans, man. And like we all make decisions based off an emotion. And there's different levels of that, right? You'll get a crazy person, like where they're making all the decisions emotionally, and then like you have a conversation logically, and they make no sense.
You know any crazy people?
I know a ton of them. But you know what I'm talking about? Like they're all over the place. You're like, dude, that doesn't even make any sense. Like how are you coming to that conclusion? Well, the reality is it wasn't a logical decision. It was emotional. Now they're trying to find logic just to support their emotional decision. And so I just think that a pre-decision is saying, man, listen, when this thought or feeling comes up, I'm going to respond like this. Because if I pre-decide, now when I'm face to face with it, it's a lot easier. Okay, I'll give you an example, dude. Like, for instance, I've always said I'll put my alarm clock across the room, and I'll put a glass of water there because it's like what I need to actually not go back to bed. All right. Well, dude, I've been leaving it on my nightstand, and I swear, dude, like I've hit the dang snooze like 4 times in a row for like weeks straight. Mm-hmm. And then I get up I'm freaking loose, dude. It's like I hit the snooze 3-4 times, it's following me. And but the night before, because I go to bed, when that was happening, I was going to bed without any intention. It was just like, when I wake up, I'll wake up. My alarm's set, I'll wake up. But then the other night I was like, I got to wake up, and I want to pre-decide that when the alarm goes off, dude, I'm getting up, and I'm going to go do this. And so I'm already kind of walking myself through a future emotion. And like when that emotion shows up, what's my behavior look like? And then so when it happened, and I rehearsed it before I went to bed, when I woke up, the emotion was still there like it was every other day. But because I had rehearsed it, dude, like my decision was different. You know, so I think that's a big part of it is understanding that. You know,
dude, I think a lot of it has to come, like when you do stack those wins, is like the more wins you have, the more confident you become. Yeah. But the same is true in the opposite. So if you keep telling yourself you're going to do something, and you continue to not do them, well, then your self-image and your self-confidence is just going down, down, down. And the hole that you have to dig out is so deep that now you need, right, all these other voices and all these other modalities, right, to help get you out of this hole that you've dug yourself just by making small little bad decisions over time. And the hole's so, it's like overwhelming, right? But the same is true in the opposite when you, and it could be something so simple like telling yourself you're going to get up at a certain time. And the same is true for me. Like I'll put my alarm clock, and if I do it, man, like I'm out of bed, I'm drinking my water, drink my coffee, I'm getting my word in, getting my worship in. Like I'm getting the kids off to school, I'm coming back. Like if I start to stack these small wins throughout the day, then the next thing you know, like the momentum is going so well that when I do take that one phone call, it's like, dude, I'm on my game. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? But it's like if you have 5 losses in a row by the time it's 8:30 in the morning, that you didn't get in your word, you didn't do your affirmations, you forgot to pray over your kid or whatever, like it is for you. And now you're going, shoot, I already messed up here, what else am I behind on? And you're just trying to catch up throughout the day. And it's that 1 degree, like you said, over 2 years. Next thing you know, you're talking about eating healthy, and you're walking in with energy drinks and
Gummy bears.
Gummy bears.
That's a great decision after Coach Cal's podcast last week. He went gummy bears. He put it out of the screen just because he didn't want you to judge him.
We're talking about 1% decisions that you can make every day that turn you in the right or wrong direction.
The little things over time.
Dude, it's true. It's so true. I think it's encouraging to know that if you're listening to this, like you're not alone, right? Like we all got these little voices that are speaking to us. But again, opening up the podcast, like I love what, speaking of Jeff, when we had him on the podcast, we were peppering him with questions, and I don't remember his exact words, but basically he said, at some point, you just have to decide. Like you just got to make a decision and quit thinking that someone else is going to come and save you.
Yeah.
Like at some point, if you want the thing, like you just have to do it. No one. I love there was a conference for this one church, and I love the opening sermon of the conference. The pastor was talking about no one else is coming.
Mm-hmm.
Like
nobody's going to come save you.
No one's coming to save you. No one's coming to rescue you. No one's going to come, and get you out of bed or make you make the phone call or make you go to. No one's coming. Like at some point, you just have to decide to do it yourself. And I think, I love podcasts like this because it gets us back in focus, right? Like when you're weeks out of focus, you listen to something like this or another podcast or a sermon or the word, and it refocuses you. But at some point, you have to decide to do the thing that you should be doing, right? Like your mom or dad aren't there to wake you up anymore. Your boss isn't there to hold your hand at some point, and you just got to flat out make a decision. I'm going all in on this thing, or I'm going to continue being frustrated with this thing. It's up to you.
Yeah.
And so,
I think taking responsibility too, man. Like you got to say, like, I mean, I think the moment you say, listen, I am where I'm at because of the choices, response to the things that have happened in my life. And the meaning is, I'm not saying like the stuff that's happened to you that was out of your control when you were a kid and stuff like that. Like I understand that. But at the end of the day, the moment we say like, how can I put this negative thing in God's hands and let him turn it for good, that's when you're going to be free to start walking down that path at a higher pace. But the moment you continue to say, man, I'm here because of this and because of that, and you get the justification, the blaming, the complaining, and all those kind of things, like I said, it's like casting quicksand. And so you're trying to move and keep going, but you're like, I'm not going anywhere. Well, it's because your voice is canceling out the direction that your feet want to go. And, like the interesting thing is, Brand, like I started working out of my house just because it was convenient. Like, dude, like I can get more done, I'm more productive. And I decided the other day to like go to the gym at 5:30 and meet a couple guys there, right? And dude, the whole day was way better
for sure.
And I thought like, well, I got to drive there. That's so in my mind, I'm trying to like maximize time. You know what I mean? Like I got 10 minutes driving there, 10 minutes driving back. I got a little fingerprint on it, type the phone number in. Like it's like 24 minutes I'm losing. But what I realized is like, dude, like your mindset, your level of energy, that dictates everything. So I got more done in that day just because I was in a more better space. And so sometimes that's the lie too that you hear is like, oh no, you wanted to do it this way, do it the convenient way. And man, convenience and greatness never match. I mean, never mix. Like it's either one or the other. You either want to go out there and have greatness, it's going to be uncomfortable, it's not going to be convenient, or we'll sell ourselves too on something convenient. Now, to me, the most dangerous things, dude, is when like the lie like makes sense and it's justifiable. Those are the dangerous ones because it's like hard not to. Because in my mind, like most people, until I give you their side of the story, you'd be like, oh, that's smart, dude. Right. I was like, hey guys, I'm talking about productivity, bro. Like work out at your house. You're gonna cut. Now maybe for you that's good, but for me, I found out it wasn't. And everybody's a little bit unique and different. But if you're not self-aware, you won't know.
It's very good.
But I realized, like, dude, for me, that was a lie. It was convenient, but it wasn't good. And all of a sudden, boom, me making that change. And I would just encourage you guys to, as you look at your situation, where you're at, maybe it's just that one little tweak. You got to do something different, right? Like the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. I think nowadays, man, it's so easy to get into a state of insanity. I know I go through them in and out periodically because of these things. But if you just make that one decision, and it could be just going to the gym at a different time. It could be, getting away from the cabinet, and keeping that out of your way and minimizing the distraction or whatever. It could be picking up the word, and every time you hear a lie, you replace it with a truth, and you say that little thing. You don't realize how that permeates over everything. And all of a sudden, like, I didn't know that one thing led to these things. Well, sometimes it's a cornerstone habit that leads to all these other habits. The one thing I want you to talk about, Brian, is you mentioned it with Blaze, you said like you came up and were like, "Hey, let me talk to you. Yeah, get away."
Right.
And I thought that's easy to do. Like when you're listening to the wrong voice, that wrong voice would typically lead you to a state of isolation. Talk about like the negative impacts of isolation, and then like what are some things somebody can do that maybe they're on here, they're listening, and saying, "Man, I kind of feel like I've isolated myself. I don't feel like I'm connected.
Yeah.
I don't know if I have the relationships that I want to have." What would you kind of tell them some of the things that they could do to help?
Yeah. So isolation, right? It depends on how you look at it. It could be good or bad, right? I think if you're intentional with your isolation, like sometimes the world is so loud, you got to be like, dude, I got to get away. Like I gotta get some peace in my mind, right? You see it all throughout the word. Like Jesus would wake up early, he would go isolate himself and pray and be with the Father. Like our little sneak peek, like our men's camp that we're gonna do next year. Like we just came up with the name. It's called Off the Grid. So it's about like getting isolated and going away. So like isolation is not a bad thing if you're intentional about why you're isolated.
Yeah.
Well, the truth is most people aren't, right? So what happens is you have so many problems and things going on in your life and you feel so much pressure and you feel overwhelmed that instead of dealing with the stuff, right, instead of getting help, instead of finding a community, instead of having an accountability partner, you isolate, because in your isolation, there's no pressure, right? There's no one going, hey, what's up with, where's the result on that? Where's the answer to this? And so you isolate. It's kind of like, binge eating. Like you shouldn't be doing it, but it makes you feel better in the moment. So what happens is you end up isolating yourself because in those brief couple minutes or moments or days or however long you're doing it, there's no pressure on you to perform. And so, but it's dangerous because you can get caught there, right? And then, and again, I've even found myself isolating too. It's like, I don't want to go out. I'll cave in my office and be quote unquote productive, right? So I think it goes back to like having good friends, good people in your life. Like it goes back to having a community. It goes back to having someone like for me, like I always want someone that I'm pouring into, right? I want someone that I'm mentoring, I'm bringing along because that gives me purpose, right? I always want friends in my life like you that's like a brother, like you do stuff with, but then I also have people in my life like, hey, I'm accountable to, that I'm being mentored by. And so I think people need all three of those relationships in their life, and it could keep you from isolation because now you got purpose, now you got community, and now you got mentorship, right? So there's levels, and most people, they don't have any of that, right? They got their spouse, they got their kids, and maybe they got their what do they call it when they have like a spouse at work? They got their work wife, their mistress, their work husband, like their friends at work, But that's about it, right? And so I think for me, it's hard to be isolated when you have those three levels of relationship, because it's like, dude, I got stuff to do, I got people that I'm accountable to, and I got stuff that I'm trying to accomplish, and so,
dude, that's like the ticket to fulfillment.
100%.
I mean, what you just said, like I'm thinking, like dude, if somebody's feeling like a lack of like fulfillment. I mean, you could go back and look at all kinds of different people. Like Tony Robbins has a different philosophy, like progressed. I think it's like progress and, giving or something.
Yeah.
But like, when you're giving and when you're growing, that's the formula in my mind to feeling like fulfilled, right? Nothing's going to do for you, not a new house, a new car, but that's the ticket. How do I feel great is when you're progressing.
Yeah,
right?
because how do you isolate when you're helping? Like how do you want to just be alone in your own issues when you got someone else you're pouring into, right? And so, I'm sure it's been said in many different ways, but it's 100% truth that's the model. That's what brings fulfillment and satisfaction when you're walking in purpose, when you're being poured into and you're pouring into others. It's like, hey, I show up at this place and I'm filled up to overflow so I can be a blessing. And there's other places I showed up where I need to be poured into. Right, and you have this balance of like pouring in, pouring out, and I think that's how God created us to be there. And
anybody, you could do that, man. Like you could take a look and say, like, all right, who can I pour into? And maybe it's just like getting plugged into a community, right? Maybe you dealt with some things and you walk through. It could be like, let's just say, like I got a good buddy Ben that he dealt with alcoholism for a long time, man, and it was really just stealing the next level in his life, right? It was just like it was keeping him down, and he got free from that. And so like he's walked through that journey, dude. Like it was trying. I mean, a lot of stuff that just kind of like stole him from his purpose and calling in that period of time. But then now that mess has become a message, right? That mess is now his testimony. And now he's serving and doing like AA meetings and stuff like that. And so he's found a way out, but now he's saying like, all right, I've got it out, but let me go ahead and grab somebody else's hand and help them get out as well. And so like, it doesn't necessarily have to be like somebody you know. It can be just like going in and saying, okay, like I've gone through these things. I've learned some stuff from these failures and mistakes. That's typically the area you're able to give is typically the area that you had to grow through because you were jacked up, messed up, and it was a struggle for you, right? And I just think that anybody can do that on here today. And then you got to ask yourself, like, who can I plug into? Who can I go grab a bite to eat with? Who can I connect with? Because that's such a big deal to be able to start to develop a higher thought process. You can't get it just by sitting there, just by your own on accord. Like the way you develop a higher thought process is getting around somebody that's got a higher thought process. And over a period of time, by like you said, when you gave that thought at a higher thought process to Blaze, your boy, he's like, oh shoot, maybe my thought process I'm working from and operating, maybe this belief system I'm starting to hold on to, maybe that doesn't make as much sense as Dad's. Because that does make sense. Hey, if that's the case, then maybe I'm okay with my one strikeout. Yeah. And so I think it's the same thing. As you get around people, you have those Blaze moments where you're like, oh, maybe that wasn't all right. And sometimes it's stuff that you knew, but it's having somebody wise enough to say, this dude just forgot it. Then you give him a good reminder, and you just remind him of it, dude. And that goes vice versa. Like I've gotten a lot from you where I'm just like, hey man, so I'm thinking, what's going on, and you just say something, and sometimes it's just a reminder and a word that I needed to hear at that point in time. But if I didn't hear it, how much longer do I go into isolation? How much longer do my negative thoughts increase? How much more does my anxiety increase? How much more does my not feeling worthy enough increase? Well, a lot until I hear the word that's going to remind me of the truth to be able to move forward. And so I think that's a big deal, bro. Well, I think this has been good for me.
It's been great for me.
Hopefully it's great for you too.
Hey, shout out our sponsor, Level Up Life Health Center.
Yeah, hey, we're launching it today. Well, today you're watching on Monday, but Thursday we're launching it.
Right.
It's launched now.
It's launched.
Yeah, it's already active, right, when you're watching this. And so if you are in the area and want to take your health to a new level, we didn't just come up with like a cool name. Like that just sounds good, man. We wanted it to be a name that we live by. And so if you're a part of the health center, you get hyperbaric treatments, red light therapy beds, molecular hydrogen, you're going to feel better energy. And if there's a better energy, better you, better healthy you, everything else will probably be better because it's going to spawn off that. So it'll be good. All right, guys. Hey, we love you. Appreciate you. Tune in next week.
See you guys.
See you.